Hello everyone, I'm Marc Daniel Patrick. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. Don't forget, just before we get started, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and you can also find me at my Patreon page. We have over 200 reaction videos there that do not and will never appear on YouTube. You can find the link to join in the description below. There are 46 numbers in the Hamilton soundtrack, and I've done my best to get as many as I can onto this channel, but we've missed one. And maybe one of the most important and definitely the most requested that we get on this channel, and it's of course the ending of the entire show. Spoiler alert for anyone who's been blind and deaf to Hamilton for the past 6 or 7 years, this is the end of the show. This is the last number, so if you don't want to be spoiled on the ending, please don't watch this video. We will go through the number in its entirety as a reaction first, and then we'll go back as usual and make our comments. Who lives? Who dies? Who tells your story? Here we go.
Tell you what I wish I'd known when I was young and dreamed of glory. You have no control. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
President Jefferson.
I'll give him this. His financial system is a work of genius. I couldn't undo it if I tried. And I tried.
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
President Madison.
He took our country from bankruptcy to prosperity. I hate to admit it, but he doesn't get enough credit for all the credit that he gave us.
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
Every other founding father's story gets told. Every other founding father gets to grow old.
And when you're gone, who remembers your name? Who keeps your flame? Who tells your story?
Who tells your story? Who tells your story?
Myself back in the narrative. I stop wasting time on tears. I live another 50 years. It's not enough. I interview every soldier who fought by your side.
She tells our story.
I try to make sense of your thousands of pages of writings. You really do write that you're running out of time. I rely on Angelica. While she's alive, we tell your story. She's buried in Trinity Church near you. When I needed her most, she was right on time. And I'm still not through. I ask myself, what would you do if you had more time? The Lord in His kindness, He gives me what you always wanted. He gives me more time. I raise funds in D.C. for the Washington Monument.
She tells my story.
I speak out against slavery. You could have done so much more if you only had time. And when my time is up, have I done enough? Will they tell our story? Oh, can I show you what I'm proudest of?
The orphanage.
I established the first private orphanage in New York City.
The orphanage.
I helped to raise hundreds of children. I get to see them growing up. In their eyes I see you, Alexander. I see you every time. And when my time is up, have I done enough? Will they tell my story? Oh, I can't wait to see you again. It's only a matter of time. Will they tell your story? Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Will they tell your story? Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
Possibly after the Jonathan Groff spitting incident, possibly the most talked about moment of this show is that right there, and it's because of the nugget that Lydon gives you. You know, he released the soundtrack. You've been listening to the soundtrack of Hamilton for how many years before millions and millions of people around the world get to see this production because of them releasing it on Disney Plus. And the best part is I love that he leaves that gasp out of the soundtrack. That is not there at all. So it's one of those things that you don't get to see until you actually witness either the show in person, or you see it here on Disney Plus, where you finally get to see that gasp. And that's why it created so much buzz, because so many people didn't even know it existed. It wasn't a thing until you get to see it here. God. All right, we'll unpack it as we go through again. Let's go back to the beginning and make some comments.
Let me tell you what I wish I'd known when I was young and dreamed of glory. You have no control. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
I was, first listening to this song, I remember when I first heard this song, I was so excited because I thought, oh God, thank you. They're letting Chris Jackson close the show, right? With that beautiful, what is that, a violin maybe that he comes in on, and his beautiful tone that he has to open this number. And I really thought they were going to let him sing the entire song, which would have been great, but I get it why they don't.
President Jefferson.
I'll give him this. His financial system is a work of genius. I couldn't undo it if I tried. And I tried.
Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
President Madison.
He took our country from bankruptcy to prosperity. I hate to admit it, but he doesn't get enough credit for all the credit that he gave us.
Now, those two I don't understand. I don't understand why they get almost the two actors to break the fourth wall, almost commenting on their characters, right? Burr has been our narrator and has sort of told us the story from the beginning to end. And now he introduces them to kind of break their character and talk about the sort of legacy that they have and sort of the legacy that they're remembered for. I don't know. It's interesting.
Who dies, who tells your story?
Every other founding father's story gets told. Every other founding father gets to grow old.
And when you're gone, who remembers your name? Who keeps your flame? Who tells your story?
Who tells your story?
I love it. I love how this all breaks into, the last 3 minutes of the show is so focused on Eliza Hamilton, which I kind of love because it's really, there's many theories out there around this show. And one of the main theories that keeps coming up is that the show is actually about Eliza and not about Alexander. The show is titled Hamilton, not Alexander Hamilton. So it could be, it's an interesting thought, right? Whether it's the show is entirely about him and his legacy, or is the show really about the fact that now it's Eliza who spends 50 years of her life telling us the story of Hamilton. So it's an interesting theory. I don't know where I rest on that, but I do love that Lynn gives her, the last word and the last sort of, spotlight of this show.
Put myself back in the narrative. I stop wasting time on tears. I live another 50 years. It's not enough. I interview every soldier who fought by your side.
She tells our story.
I try to make sense of your thousands of pages of writings. You really do write like you're running out of time. I rely on Angelica. While she's alive, we tell your story. She's buried in Trinity Church near you. When I needed her most, she was right on time. And I'm still not through. I ask myself, what would you do if you had more time? The Lord in his kindness, he gives me what you always wanted. He gives me more time.
I love so many times listening to the song over and over again. I love the Byrne influences that are in there. There's so much of the Byrne melody that he now rolls into this here, where that's, that song that of course she, Eliza and Philippa are so famous for earlier on in the show, a little bit into this final number, especially when she's talking to her sister there. It's just a beautiful touch. It's great writing. It really is.
I raise funds in D.C. for the Washington Monument.
Tells my story.
I speak out against slavery. You could have done so much more if you only had time. And when my time is up, have I done enough? Will they tell your story? Oh,
Love that
can I
moment.
show you what I'm proudest of?
She's such a freaking good actress. I love it. And I hope Philippa starts to gain more recognition as an actress. I know she's in a show that I'm watching right now, Dope Sick. She has a small part in that, but I love her impulses on stage throughout this whole show are just so spot on. I love it so much. So I really hope as an actress and obviously as a singer, but I hope she continues to build on that and gets offered more great roles because I love her instincts.
I established the first private orphanage in New York City. I helped raise hundreds of children. I get to see them growing up. In their eyes I see you, Alexander. I see you every time. And when my time is up, have I done enough? Will they tell my story?
I love that line because you don't hear a lot about Eliza Hamilton, right? And it does go back to what I said a couple of minutes ago. Thanks to Lynn of showing that there are so many important female characters in the history of this country as well, right? It's so important to recognize that behind every great man, there's a great woman there as well who's really, pushing him along, and a lot of times is responsible for so much more than what she ever gets credit for. So I do love this whole last 3 minutes dedicated to Eliza, and I love her singing that line there of "Who will tell my story?" It's going to be Lynn here, who's gonna make sure that your legacy is told to the masses as well.
Oh, I can't wait to see you again. It's only a matter of time. Will they tell your story? Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Will they tell your story?
I mean, let the rumors and let the theories spill out. I'm sure a number of people have opinions on this, and I'm going to read about it in the comments. I love reading everyone's thoughts. Please throw them in the comments of what you think that final gasp is relating to. I go back and forth. I could go a lot of different ways in my interpretation of it. I really think, having a bit of a theater background and being in theater myself, it's really beautiful to share those moments with your castmates, to share those moments with your directors, your creative team, and also to share it with the audience as well. Every single night, that show is entirely different. And although it may not, you only see it here on Disney maybe, or you only see it once when you go watch it live, that show being run again and again, you're seeing something different time and time again. And it's a beauty of being on stage for live theater, because you never know what's going to happen and you never know what's going to come up, and it's going to be so different every single night. That, for me, as someone who's been in theater before, that's what I attribute most to that final gasp. For me, it wasn't written into the original script. So as much as, people are asking Lynn, like, what did you mean by that? What did you, is it Eliza seeing Hamilton? Is Eliza finally taking her last breath? Is it, Eliza seeing that people are finally recognizing her contributions to Hamilton and to this story? It could be all of those things. It could really be all of those things. But Lynn did not write it. It was really a conversation between the director and Philippa when the show was off Broadway still at the time, talking about how to end that show in a way that made sense, not only for the show, but also it has to make sense for Philippa as well. So once the director had his final lighting cue and they knew what it was going to be, and what do you want that moment to be, and how do you want that moment to be remembered for you? I mean, and Philippa has said she hasn't come out and blatantly, described in detail that moment, but she's really said it. It's kind of, it is breaking the fourth wall. It is kind of, a recognition of all these different things that Eliza's going through, but it also so personal to her. It's something that changed every night for her, that gasp. It's something that she really just used that, that the impulse came from looking out at all the faces of everyone who just shared the last 3 hours with them, and her sort of reacting to that. So what we see here once on Disney Plus is maybe not, the exact moment that you're going to get every single time you saw her in this show. Even reading interviews about other actresses who have played Eliza, they've all taken that same cue, is where they let the moment come naturally at the end of the show. They, Philippa sort of paved that road and paved the way for them to have that genuine reaction however they want at the end of the show. She's the one who started it and sort of gave everyone else permission, being like, take this moment for you. Take this moment to really take it in what just happened for the past 3 hours and let it out in one singular moment. And to me, that's all it is. I don't read too much into the theories of it, of what it is. I think it's really just an actress getting to the lip of the stage in such a huge, monumental show that meant so much to her and her life, and in what it means to so many theater goers and everyone who's going to see this show. Just taking that moment for you and just letting it out in this emotional gasp. I know there's going to be hundreds of theories on this. There already are, and there's going to be a number of theories down in the comments. That's great. I want to read them all. I want to see what everyone else thinks. For me, that's my interpretation of it. That's really what I get from it, is just an actress coming to the end of the show and really just finally being able to break that fourth wall and let out the emotion of what this moment really means to her. That's all the time we have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, leave me those comments below. I do go through and read them all, I promise you. Leave the comments below of what you thought of this video, what you think of the gasp, and what you'd like to see in the future. All right. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, join me at my Patreon page at the link below. And I'm Marc Daniel Patrick, and we'll be back next time.